Hello everyone, Blade Bananas here. Welcome to a new video. In this video, we're going to cover a team that I used in Great League Remix Cup. Remix Cup where some of the top Pokemon in Open Great League are banned, such as Bastiodon and Medicham, so we're not going to be seeing those cores anymore. So I decided to bring this Obstagoon and Double Poison team into Great League Remix, and it was doing absolutely fantastic for me. I think I went around 20-5 over the span of 5 sets, so that's like 80% win rate. And I'm beginning to battle a lot of better battlers as we go a little bit longer into the season. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into the battles. It's a very typical ABB line. You're trying to bait out a psychic Pokemon with one of your poison, and then let your Obstagoon take out the poison mon, and then you can end up winning with your other poison. So here my opponent was actually double weak to my Beedrill right here with their Abomasnow, and they had a Charm user in the lead. Obviously you have double poison, so you'll have 2 counters to Charm user, so it's always good to swap out. And we actually lived that. We baited out, not necessarily baited out, I'm not sure why my opponent went into Abomasnow. I think my opponent was probably trying to avoid Abomasnow matchup against my Obstagoon. I think that's probably the reason behind going to Abomasnow there for my opponent. But if they just came in with this Whiscash and took back swap advantage, then my opponent would be in a pretty good spot here, honestly. But luckily for me, I was able to take back swap, and I end up getting a shield from my opponent. And right there, my opponent threw the big move, Blizzard, so I knew that they probably planned to swap out, so I decided to swap right after their Blizzard as well into my Golbat. And now this is pretty straightforward. They have a Charm user that almost got one-shot by my Poison Fang on my Shadow Golbat. And yeah. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that this team is super cheap to build. Because all 3 Pokemon, I think that was actually my intention behind using this team, is that you have 3 Pokemon that all require less than 10k dust to unlock a second move. And with Obstagoon, you can just power it up right after hatch, and it will end up having 1500, around 1500 CP cutoff. So you don't really need to spend any resource besides unlocking the second charge move on Obstagoon. So it's one of the cheapest Pokemon you can build in Great League. And then there's Beedrill, which you can just catch a high level one because they're spawning everywhere. And then you can just power that up and then spend 10k dust to unlock a second charge move. Same thing with Golbat. They're also spawning everywhere. They've been in rocket battles since the inception of Battle Leader or rocket battles, so very easy to have access to a Shadow Golbat, right? And yeah, honestly, I think these 3 Pokemon costed less than 50k dust for me to build. So that's probably going to be the highlight of this team, is that this is a very, very cheap budget team. Probably one of the best budget teams you can use in Remix Cup, because it's just a lot of its counters are out of the meta. Yeah, going back to the battles here, it was pretty straightforward. My opponent was actually double weak to my Obstagoon, and when they actually caught 2 moves as well. They caught a Night Slash on the jump left, and they caught a Night Slash on the shift tree, but it doesn't really matter at this point because, well, Obstagoon just absolutely destroys Bronzong. This is why Obstagoon is such a good Pokemon in Remix Cup. It can really break up a lot of the cores that you're seeing. For example, you can break up this very common core of something weak to fighting and a Psychic Mon, right? So you can, like Lapras, you know, they could have something like a Psychic in the back, which we should probably see right here. So we're gonna stay in here, and my opponent came in with Stunfisk actually. So that actually caught me off guard, because I don't have a direct response to the Stunfisk. I think in hindsight, what I should do is try to catch a Mud Bump onto one of my Pokemon in the back, but what I need to do is definitely swap out, perhaps into Golbat, honestly, because I could probably grab a shield with Shadow Ball and I can avoid the matchup against the Lapras if I go into my Golbat. But I stayed in here way too long, and I really didn't want to shield my Obstagoon, especially against a Mud Bump. And that also turned out to be something that was pretty bad that I could have done, because basically you guys will see that they have 2 Pokemon weak to Obstagoon. They have the core that I mentioned earlier, something weak to fighting with the Psychic in the back. So Obstagoon, being the Dark Fighter, can absolutely destroy those teams. And there it is. They have a Hypno. And I really wish I had swapped into my Golbat there, because then I would be able to grab a shield with Shadow Ball. But because I went into my Beedrill here, I can't get a shield with my Scizor. And I'm in a really tough spot right here. So I think I will go into Golbat, because my only option right here is kind of just getting a huge energy lead on this Golbat in order to beat the Lapras in the back. Because they led Lapras and they still have some energy on the Lapras. So that's why I decided to go into my Shadow Golbat, and I'm pretty sure there's not a good way for me to win this game. I'm gonna get to this Night Slash, but my opponent was actually throwing the move before I got to this move, so I couldn't get the Night Slash off, and I'm trying to farm this all the way down, and they still have a really good health on their Lapras, so it was probably game over regardless. Game to my opponent. Next up, we're against a Pidgeot. Pidgeot got a nerf in the new season. I'm not sure why. I don't think it was really justified, in my opinion, because I don't think Pidgeot was very dominant even before. But here my opponent shielded a Night Slash, which was pretty interesting, so I'm guessing that he was going to go for a straight Feather Dance. Otherwise, I don't think it makes sense for them to go for a shield. But I just decided to tank it and then swapped into my Golbat, and they have a Hypno in the back, which is not great, because for some reason I lost CMP right there, because I'm pretty sure we threw it at the same time. But because I shielded, I figured my opponent probably wasn't gonna shield, so that actually turned out to be pretty good for me. I think. I'm not exactly sure, because now their Psychic Pokemon is out of the picture. They came in with their Pidgeot, and I'm going to go for my Poison Fang right here that I just barely got to. I have pretty decent IVs on my Golbat, so getting there is pretty huge. And now I probably come in with my Obstagoon, and I can't really shield this move. My opponent probably goes for a big move right here, but I can't really shield. It's just an Aerial Ace. It still did a ton of damage. I come in with my Beedrill. And I think I probably misplayed this game a little bit. So I decided to no shield this first move, because I know for sure this is a Fire Punch, and that's probably what they should go for anyways, because one Earthquake doesn't KO and they need 2 Fire Punches. So here my opponent just got to a second Fire Punch, and I believe I actually didn't shield, and that probably turned out to be the worst misplay I could have done right here, because if I shielded, I'm not sure if I will get another shield from my opponent, honestly. But I thought I could get to double Cross Chop, but as you guys can see, I was actually just 1 Mud Shot away from getting to double. But I don't think the Cross Chop would take out my opponent at that range anyways, so good game to my opponent. That was actually like my 4th loss of the season, which was pretty insane, I think. You guys will see later. I think I only had 4 losses when I had like 40 battles done, so it was like 90% win rate. So yeah, this team was doing really well for me. Here I caught a Cross Chop, and then my opponent decided to surrender, so he probably had 2 Charm users in the back, 2 fairies in the back, and decided that the game was over right there. Just pretty funny. Because basically that team loses to a Beedrill. If they have Obstagoon and 2 Charm users in the back. Alright, next up we're against Cresselia. This is a pretty decent matchup for Obstagoon. Obviously, the Moonblasts will hurt a lot. The way you should play this matchup is go for a Night Slash and then hopefully catch a move from your opponent. My opponent actually snuck a Psycho Cut when I threw, and I think they're gonna get a desync right here as well. Yep. Because of the desync, I think they got 2 extra moves above me, so they only need 1 more fast move to get to the Grass Knot. So I have to just swap out after 1 more counter to catch this Grass Knot. Otherwise, I was gonna lose the 0 shields against Cresselia. And then my opponent comes in with Registeel. Registeel is not a counter to Beedrill. Especially, I really like normal Beedrill in this case because you need 2 drill runs to take out this Registeel anyways. And normal Beedrill can really survive those these flash cannons a lot better. So as you guys can see, we survived the flash cannon right there. I think a Shadow Beedrill would have died right there. And now we're gonna go for this second drill run, either force a shield or we take this Registeel out. We end up getting the shield, and then we just barely got to this Scizor, which hopefully my opponent wasn't counting, and then we gonna get another shield, but my opponent definitely kept track of counts and decided to no shield the Scizor. Good play by my opponent, and now I'm gonna come in with my Obstagoon. I believe I will shield once. Because I know their Cresselia is out of energy. They came in with Wigglytuff. Well, sir, I have another poison in the back, so this Wigglytuff pretty much can't do anything at this point. And my opponent no shield the Poison Fang, and now I'm just going to farm this all the way down with my Golbat, and I have energy loaded. For whatever they're coming with. They're coming with Cresselia. I'm gonna farm up to a little bit more. I could actually farm up like 2 more wind attacks before throwing, but I decided to just throw right there. But here I'm gonna go for the Poison Fang. They're 1 away from the Grass Knot, but we're just gonna take this out. In case I missed one, I wasn't gonna risk the CMP. And now we can just go for another Poison Fang for this Registeel, and then just pretty much counter down if I have my swap up, and that's game over to my opponent. GG to my opponent. Next up, we have Obstagoon versus Mew, a really great matchup. So what I like to do in this matchup is throwing after 6. I'm not sure my opponent is staying here. They probably want to chip me down and then dip out of this matchup, but that's what I thought my opponent was going to do as well, so I decided to throw on the CMP when they get to the Wild Charge, and now my opponent is forced to shield, which is really good for me. And then my opponent coming with Mandibuzz. I'm going to have to chip it down a little bit because I don't have a direct response to Mandibuzz. It's actually really tough for my backline. Sometimes you want to swap into Golbat with this team to bait out the Flyer, and sometimes you want to swap into the Beedrill to bait out the Steels. So it's really tough to decide what your safe swap is with this team, because honestly these two are both pretty solid option for safe swap. It really depends on what you think your opponent has in the back. So if you think they have a Flyer, it's probably better to go into Golbat because it has more play against Flyers. If they think they have a Steel in the back, you probably want to go into Beedrill, right? So here we chipped down the Mandibuzz. We came in with Golbat. We had to shield once. Mandibuzz is just way too tanky. And then we're going to go for Poison Fang, and then we're going to wind attack this down. We still have some residual energy. And let's see what they come back in with Mew. I decided to not even go for Shadow Ball. I wasn't sure if I was going to win CMP on against their Surf, so I decided to throw 1 turn early, because I know my opponent can't farm me down anyways, unless they decide to shield right here, which is also totally fine by me. I could consider shield or swap out of here, but my opponent ended up throwing energy right here, so this is really good for me. Because they're now almost out of energy. I believe I came in with Beedrill right here. Or maybe I come in with Obstagoon. Yeah, okay. It doesn't really matter at this point. My opponent had a Nidoqueen in the back, and he has no shield. So even if he had a fire type in the back, I could probably just drill run of the fire type if they had one. But against Nidoqueen, very straightforward. So if my opponent baits me here, I'm actually gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable about farming this all the way down. So I went for the safe play of going for Scizor here, because my lose condition is if my opponent got to the Earth Power right there, which I wasn't keep tracking of counts, because I know my opponent can't farm me down with their Mew anyways. And in order to take me out, they need to throw a Wild Charge here, and after that, they probably die to one counter. But my opponent went for the Surf, which doesn't take out my Beedrill, and then I just need one more fast move to win that game. Next up, okay, Mandibuzz is a good matchup. This is where you want to see this Pokemon from your opponent, because Obstagoon is a pretty solid response against a Mandibuzz. If you guys watch my fast move or charge move timing video, you know that you always want to throw after 1, 4, and 7 when you're using a 2-turn fast move, and when your opponent is using 3-turn. That way, we're only giving up one turn of to your opponent. So yeah, that's what I'm always trying to do. I throw my cross chop after 1 counter, or after 4, or after 7. Obviously, we're gonna no shield all these Aerial Aces because they don't do too much damage. Aerial Ace is a terrible move. Here, again, I'm going to try to throw. So that was 6 counters. You guys notice I didn't throw after 6 because I was afraid my opponent was going to go for an extra fast move. But here, I'm actually going to throw after 2 because I have exactly 2 charge moves loaded. And if my opponent decides to shield, I can just go for a second one. And now I'm going to swap out because I'm playing ABB team and I need to bait out a potential Psychic Pokemon that they might have in the back. Because they let a Dark-type Pokemon, I thought it was pretty possible, right? So we swapped in against this Nidoqueen, and I think I'm going to no-shield whatever this is. We live Earth Power right here, and do we get to... I recognize that I wasn't going to get to the Earth Power, so I just went for this Scizor, hoping my opponent shields anyways, and my opponent ended up shielding. So that's really good for me. I recognize my opponent is basically in range of Shadow Ball, but not in range of Night Slash, so I still saved up my Night Slash. Also, you guys might notice that I actually put up Hyper Beam for the moveset of Obstagoon, because I felt like Hyper Beam would be much better for Obstagoon in Remix Cup, but I didn't have it at the time. Here, I should have really considered shielding the second Poison Fang, because now, this Nidoqueen still chunked me really hard, and they came in with a Alolan Muck. Fortunately, I had a move stored in the back. I'm going to go for Poison Fang and swap out to clear my debuff, and I'm going to do 1 counter and then go for a Cross Chop right here to do a really good amount of damage, I believe. And then just do as much counter as I can, and fortunately I still have 2 shields remaining, and we just have to live through all these snarls in order to get to our Poison Fang. We still have 2 shields, so even if they had 2 moves, it wouldn't have mattered. And we got to this Poison Fang to take the win right here. It turned out to be really close, but if I just shielded one of the Poison Fangs, I think it would be much more straightforward. Alright, next up against Raining Castform. So Weather Ball recently just got a nerf in the new season, which makes this matchup a little bit better. I think you can now win 1 shield matchup pretty comfortably, but you still lose the 0 shields because they're able to live 2 Night Slashes and get to 2 Weather Balls, which is not great, because I really don't want to shield in this matchup. But because they had a Water Lead, I figured that, that maybe they have a Flyer in the back to counter Grass types. So I believe I actually end up shielding here, because I still want to preserve my Obstagoon a little bit. And I have to swap out right here to bait out a potential Flyer. or psychic Pokemon they might have. Turn out to just have a Drapion right there. And I think I'm going to swap out anyways because I have 2 decent response to this Drapion. I decided to go into my Golbat, and we saw a Coffin coming out. And this is really great because at least Golbat has some play against this Coffin. If you guys haven't checked out my video on Qwilfish, definitely check it out. It's an absolute tank. It does so much damage and it's very tanky. It's a very good moveset. But yeah, so here I'm gonna go for the bait, and now I'm gonna go for the Shadow Ball to grab their last shield. And my opponent can't really farm me down, so they would have to throw some energy right here. And now I'm recognizing that my only win condition at this point is hoping to catch a move from this Qwilfish. So I probably come in with my Beedrill here. I do have my swap ready to go. I'm gonna do 5 and I swap out to almost not catch this move, but fortunately my opponent did end up throwing this move, which was a Dark Pulse. And here I could probably go for an Scizor, but I got a little bit greedy. Fortunately, I was able to just barely farm it down, and now I have a Drill Run ready. I think a safer play would probably go for Scizor after some over farming, and then I just need to land this Drill Run in order to win the game. Yeah, good game to my opponent. Turned out pretty close at the end. Next up, we're against a Castform. They come in with Machamp. I have perfect response right here. My opponent didn't build up to Rock Slide, so obviously I'm not gonna shield a Cross Chop right there. And then I'm not gonna throw energy because they can't get to another Rock Slide. And if they want to go for another Cross Chop, I would just let it go through again. So here against this Castform, I was able to get to Shadow Ball, and now I was able to get to Poison Fang. And if my opponent doesn't shield this, Golbat is actually going to take this Castform out as well. My opponent recognizes he's in a very tough spot and decided to surrender the game. If my opponent had gone for Rock Slide on the Machamp, I think this game would be a little bit different. As you guys can see, at this point, we still had like an insane win rate. I think with this team and the Qwilfish team that we were running, yeah, we're at 36 out of 40, which is like 90% win rate. So yeah, this team is also a lot of fun to play, and most importantly, super budget friendly. So if you just came into this game and you don't know what to run, you know, Zubats are spawning everywhere. You can build it very easily. Weedles are spawning everywhere. You can build it very easily. And Obstagoon, you can hatch it from eggs very easily. So yeah, these are very solid options in Remix Cup, and definitely give it a try if you don't want to have some fun and also being competitive, and also you don't want to spend too much resource. All right, back to the battles here against Qwilfish. I got a shield and I didn't want to get farmed down, so I decided to swap out of that matchup, and we baited out of Frostlass right here, which is really great. Because Frostlass obviously is a really solid counter to my Golbat in the back, and we're able to chip it down with the Drill Run, so that's very important. I'm gonna shield right here because I recognize that I can just almost take out this Frostlass. I actually go for Drill Run right here because I know that Scizor is not going to take out this Frostlass, and hopefully my opponent does not shield. My opponent ended up shielding, so that's not exactly great. But my opponent was still forced to throw energy right here. I think I lost track of counts at this point, which was not a great play by me. So I could have farmed this all the way down, but I was a little bit I wasn't confident, so I decided to swap out, which was not exactly great. Fortunately, my opponent ended up throwing energy right here, which was huge for me. So now I can just comfortably farm down with my Golbat. And turn out my opponent had an Obstagoon in the back. Obstagoon is not great for Golbat, because they still get to 2 Night Slashes, I believe, and you end up having to shield one of them. We'll have to see. I had an Energy Lead, so I'm able to land these Poison Fangs really fast to lower my opponent's defense, and then my winged attacks will do a lot more damage. And I think that that was very important, so that I was able to barely just farm down my opponent. And my opponent had a move stored. Fortunately, I had an extra shield. So overall, I think that was a really close game, especially at the end there. If my opponent's Obstagoon was able to get one more fast move, I think they would have gotten to the second Night Slash. I wasn't looking at their counts, but yeah. Oh, this game I remember. I saw Serviper and I was like, what am I seeing? Literally have never seen this Pokemon in pretty much any league whatsoever, but it's not good for my team, honestly. So I went for Night Slash to chip it down, and then I come in with my Beedrill, and let's see what my opponent does. My opponent swaps into Wormadam, and that is terrible, terrible, terrible for me, because Wormadam can actually tank 2 Beedrills, 2 drill runs from Beedrill. But my opponent shielded one of them anyways, because they probably wanted a little bit more health. But what they can do is just farm me all the way down, and still have loaded energy coming out of this matchup. So this is not exactly great. I have to come in with my Obstagoon right here, and I have to shield because they do have access to Bug Buzz. And Bug Buzz will do a lot of damage. Definitely one-shot me right here. But my opponent actually baited me with Iron Head, so that also wasn't great. I'm going to go for a Night Slash right here. And I don't think this will even take out my opponent. And it does not. That is terrible for me. Because my opponent got a desync, so they were ahead, I couldn't throw on alignment right there. Otherwise, I think this game would be a little bit closer. But right here, we caught a Poison Fang from the Serviper. It's still kind of destroying my team. And let's see what they have in the back. They had a Cresselia, and that is very, very unfortunate. I think if we didn't get the desync, and I was able to do an extra counter to force the CMP tie against the Wormadam, I would have actually won this game. But because I would have way more health right here. But unfortunately, we weren't able to take the win right there. Yeah, I guess that turned out to be pretty close, and it was we lost to basically poison and double poison. And here against Obstagoon, I always try to catch this move. Even if it's Night Slash, it's totally fine by me, because we need to bait out their Pokemon that beats Beedrill anyways. And here I'm gonna do 5 and then throw this Scizor to either force a shield from my opponent or take out this Obstagoon. And here, because my opponent stayed for so long, I decided to preserve my Beedrill, because they probably don't have an answer to my Beedrill. And it turned out they had a Drapion in the back, which is obviously not a counter to Beedrill, because we have access to Drill Run. And Drill Run will almost take out this Drapion from right here, which we get to this Drill Run. And hopefully this will not really take out my opponent, but I can just swap into my Obstagoon, and they were exactly 3 counters away from being taken out. And then my opponent had a Nidoqueen in the back, which is really bad against my Golbat. So I think this game is pretty much a wrap at this point. I'm just going to spam out all these Night Slashes. My opponent has to throw energy against my Obstagoon in order to take out my Obstagoon before I get to another Night Slash. The boost doesn't really do anything for me there. And then I'm going to come in with my Golbat, and this should be a wrap. I don't have to shield anything right here, because Earth Power doesn't KO, and my only lose condition is kind of shielding the Poison Fang and then getting hit by Earth Power, right? And then my opponent comes in with their Obstagoon. I just go for this Poison Fang, and then I can just win attack this Nidoqueen all the way down, and it's game over. GG to my opponent. Next up, I actually forgot to record, but basically I had Obstagoon versus Nidoqueen, and I waited for them to throw a Poison Fang, and then swapped out into my Pidgeot right here. I should really consider shielding here. I did. Because the swap took a turn, I wasn't able to CMP tie there, and that was terrible for me. I was going for the CMP tie, and I should actually win CMP tie, but very unfortunate. And here I should go for Scizor. Scizor actually would do more damage than Drill Run, but I thought Drill Run would do more damage for some reason, but not a great play by me. And now I'm going to come in with my Obstagoon. I know that I lose CMP, so I decided to not even force a CMP. And my opponent went for Arrow Ace, which is pretty interesting. And now I'm going to go for this Cross Chop, which is a terrible play, honestly, because Night Slash would do more damage. It benefits from Stab, same type attack bonus. And so I'm going to go for this Night Slash, and I'm going to swap into my Golbat right here. And I debated if I wanted to shield here, and I ended up deciding to shield, just in case it was a big move, and it turned out to be a Brave Bird. And because I had an Energy Lead, they came in with Frostlass, and I was definitely going to outpace with my Shadow Ball. So we can take out this Frostlass very easily. And their Nidoqueen comes out, which we outpace here against their Earth Power because they didn't have any energy right here. But my opponent didn't even build up to the Earth Power. So we were going to CMP tie on the Shadow Ball, but Golbat definitely wins CMP against Nidoqueen. So I don't think it would matter, but yeah. And that's pretty much game over at this point. Turned out to be really close. I think we had like 1 HP on the Obstagoon. So GG to my opponent. Next up, we're against the Scizor. And I think this is where I make some really terrible plays. So we CMP tied to the first move. And I should really shield here because at the time I thought it was going to be a Night Slash. But because my opponent stayed in to throw a move, I should have realized that it was probably Scizor. And it did so much damage that my Obstagoon is pretty much gone. And then I swap into my Beedrill, and this is where I make another misplay. I believe I no-shield this, and because I no-shield this, I'm potentially in farm down range, and that's why I should go for a double Scizor right here. Because I can definitely get to 2 Scizor right here, and I was gonna get a shield from my opponent anyways. Because I went for the Earth Power, my opponent could just comfortably farm me down. And this is just terrible for me, because they're not in a health range where we can comfortably farm this down, right? And that's actually what happens right here. My opponent got to 2 moves, and I'm kind of forced to shield right here. I couldn't even catch right there, and basically I had to give up 2 shields. And yeah, their Scizor basically took out 2 of my Pokemon. And that is really terrible for me. Here, I'm hoping to land a Shadow Ball right here and hopefully catch a move on my Obstagoon, which we're not able to do. And then my opponent coming with Wigglytuff. So now I'm thinking maybe there's a chance. The chance of me going for a Poison Fang right here and then just farm this all the way down to get a Shadow Ball. I even Honor Charge there a little bit to get a little bit more farm. I'm not sure if that Honor Charge changed to anything, but we're able to farm down this Wigglytuff, and we do get to the Shadow Ball, and I thought, you know, maybe this will take out my opponent, but as you guys are gonna see, my opponent survived with a sliver of HP, and was able to get off their discharge to win the game for my opponent. Overall, really good play from my opponent. A lot of things I could have improved on to win that game, but unfortunately we weren't able to take it right there. Next up, we're against another Pidgeot. Pidgeot without Gust. That's very interesting. If you're running Pidgeot, I definitely recommend running the moveset of Gust. For some reason my opponent decided to shield a Night Slash, which they would have definitely survived, but they're going for Feather Dance, so I guess it makes sense that they're trying to win the 1 shield or the 2 shields. So I envision my opponent not shielding this Night Slash, which they do not. And let's see what my opponent does right here. I'm gonna no shield this, basically dare my opponent to go for a Brave Bird, and of course it was just a Feather Dance, and I'm gonna swap into my Golbat, and I'm gonna throw this Poison Fang before they get to another move and make my opponent make a really tough decision. Do they want to shield? And my opponent decided to shield a Feather Dance, and that's not great for my opponent. But here, basically, I let this go, and I was a Brave Bird. For some reason, I thought my opponent was gonna go for a Feather Dance, and I thought, you know, saving 2 shields for a Beedrill, I was probably gonna win this game. But my opponent had a Hypno, so this is really terrible. Basically, I need my swap button to come out right here, but it wasn't gonna come out, and my opponent threw energy right here, which was my only win condition at this point. Because my opponent threw energy, my switch timer came back up, and I was able to swap into my Obstagoon to avoid the confusion damage on my Beedrill, and now I actually have a chance. I got the boost. It actually mattered quite a lot, the boost as well, and I'm gonna go for this cross chop right here. Right when my opponent gets to the Fire Punch, hopefully get a CMP tie for some reason, and my opponent actually did throw the energy right here, and that's really bad for my opponent, and we're only 3 drill run away. I actually stopped attacking there because I wanted to make sure to see the 4th must shot from my opponent, and then I was going to throw the energy right there. And then we just need to put 1 more Poison Jab to take out my opponent. So yeah, that's all the battles I did. Like I said, this is one of the cheapest budget team you could ever find in Remix Cup. I don't think there will be any teams cheaper to build versus this team, to be completely honest. Maybe I can give that a try as well in the future, but this team is really powerful, very cheap to build in Remix Great League, and a lot of fun to play as well. Let me know if you guys are trying this team as well and how it goes with your battles. And yeah, hope to see you guys in my next video. Make sure to drop a comment, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in my next video.